Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
There is a very big problem at Columbia University in New York. The school's leaders are having an emergency meeting. The reason for the crisis is money. The United States government suddenly stopped giving the university millions of dollars in federal funding. These cuts are very large and have a big effect. Because of this, many important research projects must stop immediately. Thousands of scientists, teachers, and students cannot continue their important work. This means that new studies in medicine, climate science, and technology are all on hold. It is a problem not just for Columbia, but for many top universities. President Donald Trump explains why this is happening. He says his goal is to take back the country's great universities. He believes these schools are full of his political opponents and their ideas. So, his government is using money to pressure them. This is a direct attack on how universities have worked for a long time. This new situation is a great threat to academic freedom. Academic freedom is the right for people at universities to teach, learn, and research topics without political control. It allows for new ideas and open discussion. Now, many professors and students feel worried. They are afraid to speak or write about subjects that the government may not like. They fear it will bring more problems for their schools. This leads to a central question for the future. Can the American university, as we know it, survive this new era? Will these famous schools be able to stay independent under so much political pressure? It is a difficult time for higher education in America, and the future is very uncertain. 2. The old days. For a long time, the government and American universities worked well together. This special partnership helped make the schools famous around the world. The story of this relationship begins a long time ago. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed an important law called the Morrill Act. This law gave federal land to the states. The states then used the land to build new colleges. These schools were for everyone. They taught practical things like agriculture and engineering. They also taught other subjects. This was a new idea for America. Universities were there to help the country's economy and also to help democracy. The partnership grew much stronger after the Second World War. The war showed everyone how important science and new ideas were. After the war, leaders in the government decided to give a lot of money to universities for research. This was the start of the modern university system we know today. This New Deal was like a contract. It was sometimes called the Cold War Compact. The government gave a lot of money to the universities. The universities used the money for research and to teach talented students. The government did not tell professors what to teach or research. This freedom was very important. The agreement made American universities the best in the world. They made incredible discoveries in medicine, science, and technology. These new ideas helped the American economy and made the country a powerful world leader. But this golden age did not last forever. Before President Trump, the relationship started to break down. Public trust in universities went down. After the financial problems in 2008, many states cut money for their public universities. Politics also became a big problem. Many people, especially in the Republican Party, became more suspicious of universities. They worried that the schools were teaching bad ideas and were not connected to normal people. The strong partnership became weak. The trust was disappearing. The old days were over, and a difficult new time was about to begin. 1. New rules from the president. President Donald Trump's new government moved very quickly to change higher education. In just the first 100 days, it made many new rules. These actions were very direct and created big problems for universities all over the country. The administration said it wanted to take control and remove ideas it did not like from campuses. First, the president signed executive orders. An executive order is a powerful rule from the president's office. One order stopped all government programs for diversity, equity, and inclusion. This immediately affected universities that received government money and contracts. Another important order aimed to change accreditation. Accreditation is the official process that checks if a university offers a good education and qualifies for federal student aid. The government wanted to give states more power over this process. The government's actions followed a big plan called Project 2025. This was a very long report with ideas from conservative groups like the Heritage Foundation. The plan suggested closing the Department of Education completely. It also wanted to stop federal programs that help students pay back their loans. It said the government should not give money to schools that teach certain ideas about history or society. Project 2025 was like a roadmap for the administration. Then, new money problems appeared for the richest universities. The government passed a new law with a special tax. This tax was for wealthy private universities with large savings, called endowments. The tax on the investment money they earned from their endowments became much higher, rising to 8% for some schools. This meant these schools would lose millions of dollars each year. It was a serious financial pressure designed to punish certain universities. Finally, the government made new rules for international students. Students from other countries are very important for American universities. They bring new ideas and talent, and they also pay tuition fees, which help fund the schools. The White House started to limit student visas at specific universities. It even took back the visas of more than 1,600 students, creating a lot of fear and uncertainty. Universities worried about losing talented people and the money they needed to operate. 4. Big schools fight back. The government's new rules created big problems for America's most famous universities. These schools, like Columbia and Harvard, were rich and powerful. They decided to fight back against the pressure, but it was not easy. Each school tried a different plan to protect itself. Columbia University in New York was one of the first to face a serious challenge. The government suddenly stopped sending millions of dollars for research. This was a crisis for the thousands of scientists and students at the school. Important work in medicine and science had to stop. After a few months of pressure, Columbia made a difficult decision. The university made an agreement with the government to end the conflict. Columbia agreed to pay a very large amount of money, $200 million. It also agreed to change some of its internal rules. These new rules affected student protests and some study programs. Many people were happy that the research money could start again, but others were worried. They felt that Columbia gave the government too much control. This agreement was an important moment. It showed other universities that the government's pressure was very strong. At first, Harvard University chose a different way to fight. Harvard is one of the richest and most famous universities in the world. When the government stopped its research money, Harvard's leaders did not make a deal. Instead, they took the government to court. The university's president said the government's actions were not legal. He said the government did not have the power to tell a private university what to do. For several months, Harvard continued to fight in the courts. The university said it was important to protect its freedom and independence. But even Harvard started to see how difficult the fight was. The government had many ways to pressure the schools. It controlled research money, taxes, and many other rules. After a long time, there were signs that Harvard was ready to make a deal too. News reports said that Harvard might agree to pay the government $500 million to solve the problem. This news showed everyone a hard truth. Even the biggest and wealthiest schools could not easily win against the government's power. It seemed they all had to choose between their freedom and their financial survival. 5. Changes on campus. The problems at Columbia and Harvard were in the news, but many other schools, especially public universities, made changes in a quiet way. They did not want to have problems with the government. They were scared of losing money. In states like Florida and Texas, university leaders changed rules very fast. For example, the University of Florida closed its diversity office. They did this before the government ordered it. These schools wanted to avoid a fight. In the past, many university presidents often spoke about politics. Now, most of them were silent. They chose their words very carefully. They did not want to make the government angry. This new silence showed that universities were worried. They were worried about their money and their future. It was now a big risk for a president to speak out against the government's new rules. The changes also affected teachers, who are often called faculty. Many teachers felt they could not speak or teach freely. This is called self-censorship. It means they stopped themselves from saying certain things. They worried about discussing topics like climate science or some political ideas. A survey showed that more than half of all teachers did this. The idea of academic freedom, which is the right to teach and study any topic, felt much smaller. Students also found a new reality on campus. The rules for protests were now more strict. At Columbia University, The agreement with the government included new, tougher rules for student demonstrations. Many other schools also changed their protest policies. Some students tried to resist. About 200 students at Brown University had a rally. They wanted their university to stand up to the government. But for many, campus life was becoming more controlled and much quieter. 6. A problem for science. The government's new rules created a big problem for science in America. Across the country, thousands of research projects suddenly lost their money. Billions of dollars in funding were cut. This happened very quickly and without warning. Many scientists and their teams had to stop their work immediately. This was a serious problem for important research in many different areas. The cuts affected work that helps everyone. For example, some scientists were studying new treatments for diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's. Other groups were looking for solutions to climate change. This important work was now in danger. Without money from the government, these projects could not continue. The country was at risk of losing years of progress in medicine and technology. New ideas and discoveries were suddenly at a standstill. Universities tried to solve the problem. Some rich schools had large amounts of money called endowments. They used their own money to give temporary help to their scientists. This allowed some projects to continue for a few more months. It was a good short-term solution for a small number of researchers. However, universities could not replace all the money from the government. There were too many projects and the cost was too high. It was not a real solution for the long term. The problem was bigger than just money. When politics controls research, it hurts scientific work. Science must be free to ask any question and find the truth. But now, scientists worried. They were afraid to study topics that politicians did not like. They did not want to lose their jobs or their funding. This fear is bad for science. It can stop researchers from asking difficult questions or making new discoveries. The whole country could miss out on important new knowledge because politics was getting in the way of science. 7. What could happen next? The future of American universities is not certain. After the big changes from the government, what will happen? Experts think there are 3 main possibilities for the schools. Each path is very different and will change universities in a big way. One possible future is that many universities will do what the government wants. For these schools, staying open and getting money is the most important thing. They will accept the new rules to survive. This means they might stop teaching subjects that are seen as difficult or political. Instead, they could focus more on teaching skills for specific jobs. Professors and researchers will become more careful. They will avoid topics that could cause problems with the government. This would make universities very different. They would become less a place for open discussion and challenging ideas. The main purpose would be to prepare students for the workforce and support government plans. This path helps schools survive, but they lose a lot of their freedom. Another future is that some universities will try to resist the pressure. They will find new ways to protect their independence. For example, schools could take the government to court. They can argue that the new rules are not legal. This is a long and expensive fight. Wealthy universities with a lot of their own money have a better chance. They can use these funds to pay for research when government money is cut. Schools can also look for new partners. They might work with companies or universities in other countries to get funding. This path is very difficult. It requires a lot of money and courage from university leaders. But it could help these schools keep their traditional values of academic freedom. A third path is that universities and the government will find a new way to work together. People in business and government might start to worry. They will see that without strong university research, the country could lose its lead in science and technology. This could hurt the economy. So a new kind of partnership could form. Universities might agree to change some things. For example, they could be more open about how they spend money. They could also promise to protect different political views on campus. In return, the government would give them more freedom to do their important research and teaching. This would not be like the old relationship. It would be a new, more balanced agreement for the future. 8. The big question. American universities will not disappear. The buildings will stand and students will continue to classes. But the idea of the American university is in danger. The purpose of these important schools is changing. The problems at universities are a sign of a bigger problem across the United States. People in the country are very divided. They strongly disagree about who to trust for information. They have different ideas about what is true and what is important for students to learn. This national argument is now happening inside the universities themselves. This is why academic freedom is so important. This is the freedom for professors and students to ask difficult questions and explore new ideas, even unpopular ones. When a scientist can study a disease without political pressure, or a historian can teach the difficult parts of a country's history, they are using this freedom. This work is not just for the university. It helps the whole country make better decisions. It leads to important discoveries that save lives and improve the economy. Protecting this freedom is necessary for progress. The future of universities is closely connected to the future of American democracy. A healthy democracy needs citizens who can think for themselves and understand complex problems. Universities are supposed to be the places where these skills are taught. If schools become places that only teach what is politically safe, the entire country will suffer. The big question is not if universities will survive. The real question is what they will become and what that means for the future of America. What do you think is the most important purpose of a university today?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like. write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.